then they crash. Why? Because you need to shift your vision into what is focusing forward, into that forward-looking vision of what is pulling you rather than what is pushing you away.
Let's do it. If you want to talk a little bit about you and what, where you are in life and how you got there, just so we can build a little context, and then we can get into the presentation.
Yeah. So I'm Kimberly Spencer. I am the founder of crownyourself.com. I am a certified high performance coach, and I currently live in Australia. Like Kevin said, my family and I, we got stuck here by choice back in March of last year, and it was one of the best decisions that we ever made. My business ended up doubling. We doubled our profit twice, and then we expanded our team. And now we're expanding our family too. So it's been a quite a year of expansion and growth for the Spencer family here in Australia. And it's so fun because this was always the vision, was to be able to travel around the world, raise our kids in different countries, allow them to learn from experience. And really this past year has been a blessing of us just being able to, and by us, I mean my husband and I, and our son Declan, and soon to be son Colton, stepping into this world, one of them literally stepping into this world, and just being able to step into that power that we all have to be able to craft a vision and a life that's truly authentic and that is ours, and that is something that we love and enjoy, and is based on our vision, not someone else's version of how we should be living our life. And so that's what we're going to be diving into today, with how to claim your power and how to claim your feminine power more specifically, because there's such a difference between the feminine and the masculine. And before I get into all my fancy slides and all that information, one of the things is that sometimes the feminine, the energy is so powerful. And when I refer to masculine and feminine, I do not refer to it in the terms of gender. I refer to it in the terms that we all have masculine and feminine energy. The masculine is very much the container. The feminine is the insides, what's inside the container. The masculine provides the structure. The feminine is allowed to flow inside. And so today we're going to be diving into really claiming that power, both sides of it, and some strategies and subconscious strategies that can help get you there. Because with the feminine energy, like if you think about it from an electrical socket, the electrical socket, you have to plug into the feminine. The male has parts, and you plug into the feminine, but the energy is already circulating in the feminine. So sometimes this masculine, like doing, constantly pushing energy, it's gunking up the feminine's ability to receive. And so we want to be able to really have an open, receptive socket to be able to easily slide and slip in that charge of doing into the electrical socket to create that and generate that electricity for the vision that we want in our lives. So let's dive in.
Kim, thank you so much for those kind words, by the way. When you first said what you said about Kevin and I, the screen was frozen, so if we didn't react, that's why.
That was on our end.
Yeah, that was on our end. Yeah. It's like, I just said I love you guys. No reaction? No, we're so grateful to have you here.
We love you.
Just total dead face. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's nice to know that the feeling's mutual.
I literally was like, I know that wasn't a good look, but we're having fun already. Kim,
the feeling happened before.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. He hit Camtasia right when you said it, so you were frozen. But
so today we're going to be diving into, can everyone see my face and the screen? Slides looking good?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we're going to be diving into how to claim your power, how to escape from the dungeon of doubt, kick fear off your throne, and rule your life. And really, this is just my disclaimer of ownership, is that your results just entirely depend on you. So, I mean, I've been able to serve a lot of clients in a lot of different areas and a lot of different industries in really stepping into their power, their ownership, and their vision. It depends on you. It depends on the work that you put in. So also, so this is why we are here. We are here to crown ourselves with this power. And I want to be clear as to what the power is. And I'd love to know how you define this word power. Because for me, I don't define power as in force. I don't define it as pushing. I define power as an energy of, almost like the infinity symbol, an energy of consistent ebb and flow, almost like the ocean. The ocean is a consistent ebb and flow of power, and trying to dam up the ocean is a very futile and fatal cause. So I do have a special gift for you if you stick around to the very end. So be sure to stick around to the end. And I always like to include a little bit of housekeeping just in case, so that we can all be really intentional about this time together. Phone off, lovable distractions in the other room. I sent both of my boys to school, and then a little housekeeping of just turning off all your social medias so that we can be really present and focused, because I'm so grateful to be here with you and to be sharing this time with you. And one of the tenets of high performance is full engagement. So really being present, being fully engaged in this. If you're listening to this in the background of your life, allowing that to be the choice that you're making, but also if you're choosing to be fully here, then let's be fully here and do this. So after totally loving this class, I will show you a couple things of how we can break through and move and transform and shift and create a strategy and a plan to really claim your power for the next 12 months. And that's just at the end. So here's just a little bit about me. So I'm Kimberly Spencer, certified high performance coach, 3-time multiple 6-figure business owner, digital nomad, currently living the laptop lifestyle in Australia, mom of 1 toddler and 1 on the way. I am a warrior for possibility. Do not tell me I can't do something. If you do, I will probably show you that I can, and then I'll post all about it on social media. And I normally help my clients to 2 to 3x their income. And more importantly, and this is what really sets my soul on fire, is they align with their purpose. So it's not just making more money for the sake of more money, because pretty much nobody comes to me. Everyone comes to me with the desire to have more freedom and ease. And yes, money is a part of that, but it's not necessarily all of it. So what we're doing here today is we're going to really create the breakthrough for you. I'm going to give you the exact subconscious strategies, the exact energetic strategies and principles that can create massive momentum for you in this year. And I live in Surfer's Paradise, which has apparently in Australia, they have really farty cars. So if you can hear that, I apologize. So here's what most people think it takes, right? This is a very masculine energied approach on number 1 and number 2. Number 3 is it's the feminine flow, but without the structure in the container. So let me know. I'm going to pop open the chat box because I would love to know from you guys if you have struggled with any of these, of thinking that it's going to take more research. It's going to take you having a perfect plan and knowing exactly how to do all this stuff. And you go down the research rabbit hole, Googling everything until your eyes grease over. Number 2, you're doing more of everything. It's just instead of just being, you are in the doer's mode, and you constantly feel that, okay, I'm not achieving my goals, so I have to just do more. I have to work harder. I have to multitask and rebrand and then do this and then shiny. And it's can be a very common thing to grab on to the doer, because here's the thing. Nobody wants to, and I love that Jen says she's guilty of number 1. I was guilty of all 3. So it's all good. Number 2 is very much, nobody wants to be misconstrued as being lazy. Every person, and every person that I have talked to thinks that they live an incredibly busy lifestyle. And I learned this early on in my career when I first started teaching Pilates. I'll give you a little bit about my background a little later. But I started out as a Pilates instructor. That's what made me see for 10 years that mindset was so powerful. And I had 2 clients. I had one client who was pregnant with her 3rd child. She was a partner in one of the largest law firms in the world. And she would always come to me at 9 o'clock at night for her appointments, and then would just talk about, oh yeah, I'm going to be going home and I have some cases to take care of. So she was a high performer, definitely high performer. At the same time, I also had a client who was a single woman. She was recently divorced. She was fully supported by her husband. She had 2 grown kids, both with their own forms of transportation. They both had cars. They were a very wealthy family. And she was the most stressed out person I've ever met in my life. And I was like, what is this difference? And what I saw is that everybody has a belief and a desire to have busyness in their life, but most people can misconstrue busyness with purpose and intention. And so this is very much the busy person. And then we have number 3 of like let me just manifest it. You journal about it, you vision, you Reiki, you act as if. And I'm not saying that any of these things are good or bad or wrong. Like, believe me, I have hustle in spades. And believe me, I love a good plan and some quality research. And I do love the manifestation. And I do love the oming and visioning and writing and journaling. But it's not the thing. It's not the form. It's in number 3, it's very much trying to do all these manifestation things in order to get a goal, but it's not actually doing the thing that's going to perpetuate you forward, which is normally that thing that scares you. And so all of these are fake news. So from the outside, like, this was what my life looked back in 2015. It looked really great. I was traveling all over the world with my husband. My husband's a voice actor, so we get to go to all the Comic-Cons. And so we got to travel to all these great places. And I had great photo shoots, and I had a lovely website. And I'd just written a film that had come out back in 2012. I had my own private Pilates studio, and from the outside, everything looked really Instagrammably awesome. So Instagrammably is what I call it's when something appears good on social media, but it's not really necessarily that way in real life. And so what I call this is the Titanic business model, or the Titanic life model, basically where everything looks really pretty and successful from the outside, but you're just burning your boilers at the end. Your leadership sucks, meaning we got some mindset stuff going on, and you don't have enough lifeboats to save yourself, and you don't even realize that you've hit an iceberg and are already going down fast. So that was me back in 2015, because my icebergs were, I was bought out of my e-commerce company back in 2014. I still held on to so much grief and debt from that experience. I experienced trauma from both dealing with lawyers. Suddenly I had my capabilities all called into question. I had my belief about myself. I was scared that if I really started to grow my company, Crown Yourself, that it would be taken away from me for some reason. I had all these weird, funky beliefs. And I also had a lot of developmental trauma from my childhood resurfacing because of the initial shock trauma of getting bought out of my business. So these were all of my icebergs. So even though I had the idea for my company back in 2014 on my honeymoon, right there with my hubby on the Italian coast, I started doing all of these things in my business that were the doing. So I was very much in that doing mode, but it wasn't actually doing that was perpetuating growth or traction or momentum. And so I had all the fancy photo shoots. I bought a whole bunch of fancy lighting and film equipment. I spent $2,000 on the domain name. I hired a web designer, logo designer for my website and my logo. I made up business cards that said CEO. And you know what CEO of like a company that has no team is? It's a solopreneur struggling. So it was very different. And really what it was I was drowning in doubt. And I questioned, would anything ever be good enough? I questioned if I was just broken, if maybe I didn't deserve to own a business. I thought I was a fraud. I questioned, who am I to launch a company? Can I really have a profitable business? What would it build? Like, what if I build it and it just gets all like, let me know if any of these questions of doubting yourself are resonating with you. Because these were all questions that I had that I totally struggled with. And I was $40,000 in debt. I was side hustling. I didn't even believe in my own Pilates studio enough that I'd had for 8 years back then. I had a private Pilates studio that I initially started running out of my home that I eventually turned into a small studio in Burbank. And I didn't even believe in that business enough that I had run successfully while owning my e-commerce company. And so I took a job side hustling at a chiropractic studio, teaching Pilates for them as well. And I was stuck in doing procrastination, or productive procrastination, as I call it. So that is where you're doing all these things in your business to make it look really good. But truthfully, I didn't make a dime for a year and a half. Like, I had made no money. I literally had nothing. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so things really shifted then, because suddenly I realized that basically I had to get off the pot. Like, I knew that as I didn't like who this version of doubting myself was, and I didn't want that to be the example that I set for my child. And so I immediately said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to turn pro, and I'm going to do this thing. And so once I found out I was pregnant, there was no going back. I immediately got certified in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. I thought, what's spending another $5,000 on a coach and a certification process, because I already was $40,000 in debt. So another $5,000. I was just like, this, it felt so aligned to do that I just said yes. And the universe sent me signs that basically said, like, this is what you like, go in this area. Like, I'll give you an example. I was studying with my, I was on the sales call with this company that I hired my first coach through. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not so sure. And then as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I knew the program was for me. I knew there was no going back. And so this is a song that I like to reference. It's a song from Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods. And it really mirrors what was my own internal motivation. Because I think our children or our creations can be the greatest inspiration or the greatest excuses that we have. And I wanted mine to listen to what I did, not to what I said I was going to do. So I made all these changes, and I thought, okay, my gosh, my freedom is within reach. It's so close. I made these changes. It's going to happen. I started to get clients. And then I started to feel stuck and trapped in these big ass goals that I had set. And I didn't, because I wasn't hitting any of them. I thought, oh, I'm going to have my first 6-figure year in my business. Didn't happen that year. Like, I thought, oh, I'm going to have 5 clients this month. I would get like maybe 1. And I would set these outrageous goals. And I was like, wait, what is going on? And I just kept operating from fear. I had to realize that I was still using fear as my catalyst. And I constantly felt scarcity in my time mindset, meaning I felt like time was my enemy. I felt like this clock was ticking. I felt like it was now or never. And I really wasn't operating from that space that I now work with my clients on, of cultivating that vision and that longevity. And I was also hiding my sparkle. Like, truth be told, like, I spent a whole bunch of money on a website, and I was so scared that people wouldn't take my business, a business called Crown Yourself, seriously, that I developed a whole other website on another platform, built it myself in a weekend, which is now the website that I have now. And I literally took my pictures, I toned them down. I made sure I cut out a lot of the sparkle so that it would still look professional. And I would look like this button up professional. And so that I had to realize that fear was still operating and ruling my life. And so I felt like I was doing all the things I should be doing, and yet I was seeing very little results. And this is literally how I grew my business in my nursing bra, with my baby on my chest and my laptop on my lap. And so that was what I was doing for the first 2 years of my business. And then I realized that I had been operating by so many other people's shoulds and supposed tos that were really everyone else's subconscious success strategy, but they weren't mine. And so what I had to find was I had to own what had made me successful in the past, what had made me successful at starting a screenwriting career from nothing and getting a film produced and distributed by Lionsgate and on Netflix. I had to own the fact that I'd had a successful private Pilates practice and built that business and successfully owned that. And I had to own all of the dreams, the desires, the mess, the successes, the failures, and the fabulousness, like, quite frankly. I had to claim my power. Amy says, agreed with all this. So yes, self-doubt is such a huge dream killer. So here's how I did it. Obviously, I figured it out to a degree. This is my little assistant. He's so adorable. This is my other assistant. He does all the cooking, and I'm so grateful for this. So here's the perks of claiming your power. When you claim your power and you achieve freedom, freedom really starts in your mind. And so when you're able to liberate yourself from your own doubt, nothing can stand in your way, not even you. Choice, understanding that you have the power right now to choose and take ownership and change your story. Normally, it's going to require courage. It's going to require the quantum leaps will happen in your life when you take those steps of courage to really achieve the dream. So, and courage can be different for every single person. Courage can be choosing to take a nap in the middle of the day. Like for a lot of my high achievers who are like the big time doers, like I encourage them to try to do something that's opposite of what the thing that they are so used to and programmed to do, which is, you know, maybe take a nap or do a meditation in the middle of the day, something that breaks up that normal routine of doing. And then faith. So forward motion while feeling, with faith, you get forward motion while feeling fully supported, knowing that your success is inevitable. So faith, the foundation of faith, and I don't mean that in a religious standpoint, I mean faith will create that foundation of trust that you can produce results, that you can figure it out. So if you don't necessarily believe in a higher power, I do, but if you don't, or if you have things and stuff around that, then faith is just really in your ability to figure it out because you figured out life to this point. And then this is what I realized I needed to fix in my business. I needed to fix my mindset, my skill set, my systems, my branding, my marketing, and my sales. And none of these had to do with what color fonts I had, with how many sparkles or crowns I had in my pictures, with how many branding photo shoots I did. What I had to fix was the leadership vessel that was me ruling my life and my business. And so first, we'll start with question number 1. In order to claim your power, you have to ask yourself, are you facing the right direction? So are you facing toward fear or are you facing toward faith? And what I mean by this is imagine that you are driving forward toward a goal and you have a goal and a vision that you want to achieve, but there's something that you are moving away from. So let's say, for example, like you really don't want to be like your father. Like, let's say maybe your father or a parent, your mother was lazy. Maybe you felt that there was some trauma growing up and you're like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to live like that. So I'm going to drive as far and as fast away as possible from that thing, from that state of being. Well, what happens is that's a good short-term strategy, but if you're actually driving in a car anywhere, eventually you can only drive so far while looking in the rearview mirror. So you have to be able to shift your gaze to look toward that vision, to look toward where you want to go. Yet most people, and this is what causes self-sabotage and self-destruction, is they're driving forward toward forward, looking in the rearview mirror because they're looking at exactly what they don't want, at what they don't want to be, what they don't want to have, what they don't want to do. And they're driving forward, but then they crash. Why? Because you need to shift your vision into what is focusing forward, into that forward-looking vision of what is pulling you rather than what is pushing you away.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this or listening to this, it's obvious that you want to get to the next level of your life. We can help you get there faster.
In 3 months from today, your life can look completely different. Here's how. Group coaching. Here's what you're going to get. So you're going to get bi-weekly calls with Kevin and myself. You're going to be on a team of 10 like-minded, growth-oriented individuals. You're also going to be in a WhatsApp chat with Kevin and I and the entire team, 24/7 access to chat. Also, you're going to get bi-weekly progress reports and peak performance tracking.
Guys, this is a great opportunity for those who can't afford one-on-one coaching with Alan and myself. We have helped dozens and dozens of people get to the next level at this point. Go to nextleveluniverse.com, click group coaching, or find the link in the show notes.
Talk to you soon.
And this is also how people revert back to that. They kind of go into that cycle, that strategy of constantly using fear, if you've ever experienced a cycle of continuous sort of almost like self-sabotage, but just like it seems like you're continuously circling back to that thing that you don't want, and you're like, oh really, we're at this point again where I'm like looking at what I don't want. Or maybe you like your bank account is low again, or maybe the scale is a little high again, and you're like, really, we're back here. Well, that's because that this is a subconscious motivation strategy that you may be using fear to motivate you away from what it is that you don't want, rather than shifting into what it is that you do, which is a much longer term strategy. And so both of these strategies, here's the thing, both of these strategies, fear and faith, work and they're effective. Just most people are conditioned to know and understand the strategy of fear versus the strategy of faith. And so I want you to think about it from this perspective, because I was a Pilates instructor for 10, 13 years. I love to use the body as an example. So in the body, you have two types of nervous system. You have your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight and flight nervous system, and you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. So these are like your two different motivation strategies. In the body, the fight or flight nervous system is really necessary if you're going to go kick that ball, score that winning goal, if you're going to run away from that thing that you don't want, if you're suddenly you see that your bank balance is low and you're like, holy crap, I got to make some sales. Like, it can kick you into action really, really strongly. The parasympathetic nervous system, it's the rest and digest. It tends to have a bit more of a feminine energy to it, because you're allowing for that flow. And actually, if you think about it in terms of the body, the work, if you think about it in terms of the muscle, if you're working a muscle, then you have the muscle of doing the work, you're doing the curls, you're actually tearing the muscle fibers. And then the work, the repair happens in the rest. Like, and in the rest and the flow of allowing the muscles to repair, so that then that's how they grow stronger. The parasympathetic nervous system allows us to oscillate back down from that fight or flight. It allows us to breathe and rest and digest and relax and still work hard. So being able to oscillate between the two is very key. So it's very similar to anaerobic exercise and aerobic exercise. So we have anaerobic, which is short length, high intensity, sprinting, and aerobic, which is marathon running. So in anaerobic, it's very much like using fear as a motivator. You're sprinting, you're looking to get away from that place that you don't want to be really, really fast. And with aerobic, you're looking for that longer journey. You're enjoying the drive, you're enjoying the run, you're enjoying the 26.2 miles glorious marathon running. I'm a marathon runner, so and these are basically using fear and faith as motivation strategies. So the question is, again, what direction are you facing? And then for number 2, to claim your power, is, are you asking yourself the right questions? So the question of why will give you a lot of reasons and a lot of excuses and a lot of beliefs, but it may or may not get you results. I'll share with you in a moment when is an appropriate time to use the question of why. But what, how, and where are questions, or with whom is another great question. These will give you strategy. So these will give you an ability to move forward. So let's assess the questions. As an NLP certified coach, I get like really nerdy about language. Tony Robbins said that the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you are asking yourself. And here's how to ask yourself more quality questions so that you clear up any funky energy that may be blocking you. So your subconscious mind, and yes, if you can't tell, I'm obsessed with the Titanic, have been since I was 10, proud obsession. Your subconscious mind is like the ship, and you are the commander as the conscious mind. So your conscious mind is giving directions to the ship. Now, if you think of a ship, like there's all these people, all these crew on the ship that don't necessarily, all they hear is the command. They don't question it. They just follow the direction. So that's what your subconscious mind is doing. It's not questioning the question. It's just saying, okay, you want this answer. Here's the answer. So this is why doesn't work when faced with opposition. Like if you were to ask yourself, why do I always do that? This was a question that I used to frequently ask myself. Why do I always struggle with that? Why do I always do that? Why do I always make this mistake? Well, here's the command that I'm giving. Why do I always do this? The ship goes, the command goes, why do I always do this? The ship goes because of this reason, because of this experience, because of this limiting belief, because of this thing that you did in fourth grade, because of this thing, this excuse. So it gives you the exact answer, but none of these really serve to be able to move you forward and change. So in order to shift, it can be a little challenging. So it's either you may be happy sailing or sinking, depending upon the quality of the question. So how do you ask yourself stronger questions? When you start directing your subconscious mind to heal, to bless, toward gratitude, toward elevation, and looking at how a new strategy of possibility, that is how you will develop a new strategy out of any crappy circumstance that you're in. So I love that. Remember that your subconscious mind can also not take a joke. It takes you at your word. So just be aware of that. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind is one of the best books that you can grab on subconscious mind. So here's how what and how questions really work. So instead of why do I always do that, you could change that to a what or a how question. So what and how questions could be, what triggers me to do that? So now you're able to assess the triggers. Now you're able to assess the things so that maybe next time you could not do that thing that you always do. How could I do that differently? That's future pacing, to seeing a different way that you could see how you could do something differently. What if I didn't do that? Like what if you didn't do that? What if you did something different? What would then happen? What would that bring up in you? Who would I be if I didn't do that? So these are all different types of questions that can develop a different type of strategy, or that can allow you to actually have solutions rather than more reasons, limiting beliefs, and excuses as to why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And let me know if this is resonating, or if you have any questions on this, please, in the chat box, if these questions are helpful. Here is when to use why. When you use why when directed toward faith, purpose, and vision. So like you'll hear a lot in coaching, people will say, what's your why? And so the why, the why of why you do, okay, Jen B says this is fantastic. Jenna Logan says loving this. Amy says so helpful. Cool, awesome. The why is when you can use that from a place of purpose and vision. So like, why is it that you want to be an excellent coach? Why is it that you want to double your impact in this next year? Why do you want to double your income? Because that's going to give you more support and more evidence. And if you're not seeing the evidence that is strong enough, you can always ask yourself, okay, what else do I need to add on to make this why more powerful for what I'm going for? Like Simon Sinek says, start with why. I say why is great for if you're operating from purpose, faith, and vision. Why is not so great when you're dealing with any sort of negative beliefs, because it'll just cycle and circle you around, and then you'll get stuck in this crappy cycle. But when you use why from faith and purpose and vision, it is super powerful for changing the dynamic of how you're moving forward. And then number 3, are you focused on the right person? So you can be focused on self, or you can be focused on serving others. So self, fear, doubt, shame, guilt, also joy. But joy is also contagious. Apathy, but these are all emotions and states where the focus is on you for the most part. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't know if I should do this. This is like, I'm not sure if I can handle this, blah, 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 blah. Focused on serving others, it takes the attention off of you and focuses on to something bigger. So this is where you can really place your power in service to serving others. And so if we look at these are all the big fears that I see every day in coaching clients. So judgment, rejection, death, ruin, failing, imposter syndrome, outshining those you care about, being fundamentally flawed, abandonment, disloyalty, bigger success, bigger burden, not deserving, not worthy, not enough. Like, who are these all about? That's fine. Just curious. Like, who are these? Where, if you were to direct an arrow, like who are these all about when you're thinking these things? They're about you. And so here's a question that not all my clients love me asking, but they love me after. They don't love me so much in the moment for asking. But I asked them, I said, why are you being so selfish? Like I said, none of my clients like that question, but when I ask them that, it really changes the game. Because the results that come out of that, of shifting the selfish look at yourself of, I'm so scared of being rejected, I'm so scared of, being abandoned, is preventing you from actually serving others. And I like to give the example of, like, what if you had the cure for cancer, but you were scared of getting rejected? Like, you're like, oh, no, but pharmaceutical companies won't accept it. Like, I'm scared that I'm going to get rejected. I'm scared that, the population won't get it. Like, will reject me, or they'll laugh at me, or maybe, like, because I cure cancer, then my brother won't, like, I'll outshine my brother or something like that. So I'm not saying that necessarily you have the cure for cancer, but I am saying that you do have, in some way, with your products, your services, with the career that you have, you are providing a service that is necessary, that is helping someone move from a space of pain into a space of pleasure. And so playing small is just simply very selfish. You lose your power when you lose your focus on whom you can serve powerfully. So this is the beauty of the connectedness of plugging in to that feminine ability to connect and serve. When you can serve from that place, when you lead with that goal of service above all, and I'm not talking about service in a self-sacrificial way or in a people-pleasing way. That's a very different type of service that also is driven from the ego. But if I'm talking about service where you are using your gifts to be of service to others, then that is how you can really transform people powerfully into shifting and helping them get out of the pain that they're in. I mean, for me, if I get rejected, if I believe that was even possible, but rejected by a client, or somebody says they don't want to work with me, I'm like, okay, cool. I really wish them the best. I hope that they find someone that can serve them, that can help them. If they don't think I'm a fit, then I literally say a prayer of gratitude and hope for them that they will find it, because I know that they also created the space for me to serve somebody else who may be more in alignment with my vision, my values, with how I serve and how I can help someone. Because here's the thing, people are watching you. They're watching you every single day. Your future generations are watching you. So your kids, grandkids, like everything you're putting on this phone into the interwebs, your kids and your grandkids and your stepchildren and your nieces and your nephews and your mentees and your community, they can all watch. And you'll be surprised at how many eyeballs you actually have on your life. It doesn't matter whether you have 20K Instagram followers or 30. Like, you have people who are watching you and how you live your life, and all of your relationships, your partners, your husbands, your wives, your parents, your colleagues, your coworkers, your friends, your guides, your mentors, your clients. They're all watching how you're living as a role model. And your followers, every single friend, follower, liker, subscriber, client, customer, they're all watching and listening to how you are showing up as a leader. And so you're an influencer, whether you have one friend, which I'm sure you probably have one friend, or you have 1 million. How are you serving them? And here's the difference between the feminine and the masculine. How are you serving them? By who you be. Notice I did not say what you do, because what you do is the container for who you be, but it's not all of who you are. Like, you don't think when you get a container, when you put your leftovers in a Tupperware container, that the container is what you're eating. You're not eating the container, you're eating the food inside of it. Well, that's what your customers, your clients, the people that you influence are consuming. They're consuming who you be. They're not consuming the container of what you do. They may be consuming the container in the form of what you do. And let me know if this metaphor is making sense. But what you believe, you think, you feel, you perceive, how you're showing up in the world, the energy that you're exuding, that has more power than the things that you're doing. Like if I am not in an energetic state that to serve, like before coming on to this masterclass, I was listening to my music. I knew I was going to be a little, I might be a little tired. And so I was like, I know that I had to get myself into a state of being, not into a state of doing. It wasn't about just listening to music. It wasn't about like just doing this masterclass. It was about, am I going to be able to bring my full presence, my full energy, my full attention of who I be into this container that we've created here together in this masterclass? And so I knew that I needed some tools, some tactics, some resources to shift. So I did some deep breathing. I definitely got to warm up my cappuccino. I turned on some music. I did some dancing just to be able to get into that space of who I be in order to be in a space of service rather than in like, let me do this and have this all be perfect. Because this is first, which translates into what you do, which then translates into what you have. So your external reality is first created by who you be, and then plugging in the doing, the masculine energy into who you be. This is why when you reverse that, when you flip that, especially in a business model, like I was coaching one client this past week, and she was like, oh, everyone says to do summits. Like I need to do summits. And I was like, cool. Why? And she was like, well, that's what my, other coach said to do, that I need to do summits. And I was like, cool, I'll never, tell you what you should or should not do, but I'll ask you, like, is who you be, like, as a customer, do you like to go to summits? And she was like, no. And I said, well, if you're attracting customers that are similar to who you are, then do you think that they would want to go to a summit? And she was like, oh, I've never thought of that. And I said, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but she knows her audience. And through that coaching, she realized that she was doing all this doing of what other people said would make her successful in her industry versus what really lit her soul on fire, what really inspired her, and what had made her successful in past businesses. And that's the power of looking at who you be versus what you do. Because so many people, we looked at this tactical strategy of like, give me another thing to do. Give me another thing, like, let's just add a podcast on. Let's just add this on. Let's add this on because this one, let's add webinars and funnels and all this. And all of that is great. But it starts with who you be first and then translating that into what you do, which will then translate into what you have. So your energy is everything. And your life is a testimony for what is possible. And my question is it currently an example or a warning? So remember, I mentioned my clients who were struggling with the busyness, the single mom, the divorced mom of 2 kids, who just was always constantly living in a stressed out state. Her state was this state of this constant doing. So she would busy herself so she would feel that and try to fill that being that she was lacking, but really she just wasn't comfortable with being with herself. Versus my other client, it wasn't that she was a successful lawyer, it was that she had a purpose and she lived her life from that space of purpose, not just as an attorney, but also as a mother. And so look at, is your life currently an example? Like if somebody was watching you today, if you were mentoring someone today and they were watching you, would that inspire them? Would how you're showing up for your work inspire them to be better? Like my client Vontel, who totally transformed. He had his first $10,000 month after working with me. He had all of these funky beliefs around like, the doing and the doing is the masculine form. So he had this form. He had a degree in arts, and he thought, oh, this can't make me a successful real estate coach. And I was like, who's to say that? And once we worked together on shifting those limiting beliefs, like he realized that the form didn't matter as to whether he had a degree in this and then suddenly he was in a different field. That he looked at how that could serve him in this way, and then thus how he could serve his clients better and differently than any other real estate coach out there. And he had his first 10K month working with me. And like my client Bonnie, she was able to stand up for herself more in the past few months than she said in the past 52 years. 52 years. And it was just because she had learned to be able to shift into that being of claiming her power, the being of acting with courage, the being of leaning into her own greatness and her own possibility. And then letting her doing be the container of what she did in her life and in her business support that rather than the other way around. All right, so I'm happy to open up to questions now. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Do we want to kick to the post?
We can, yeah. Oh, wow. Kim, fire. Strong work.
Yes. Fire.
Absolutely strong work. I love the being versus doing. So typically, I actually completely lost track of time. Maybe we do need the timer, man. I was like, Kev, we don't need the timer, man. We're fine. No, we need the timer.
Well, brevity is not my specialty, Alan. You should know that about
Kim, you and me both. I literally was completely in flow. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kick it over to questions, and Kevin and I are gonna let the audience, rock with Kim. Kim, thank you so much.
Absolute fire.
Seriously.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome.
Always bringing the energy.
Thank you. I would love to know, what did you love about this? What were your breakthroughs? What were your ahas? I always like to ask that.
I think the being part really connected. They're all connected, right? So like doing creates habits, which creates who you become. But if you're always coming from a place of something outside of yourself, it's potentially a long-term losing game. The other piece that really did it for me, and it's what you and I talked about offline, which is motivation from fear can be a catalyst to make positive change, but it's not the best long-term strategy. You have to use push and pull. And, being afraid that you won't be in shape for this wedding will definitely get you started, but that's not going to create a long-term healthy fitness lifestyle. Right. And so I think that was major for me.
We talked about insecurities today on one of our episodes, and I love the own your mess. I think so many people, they try to sell their mess and move on from it. And I think when you own it, it actually empowers you. And it's interesting because I was sending messages today about this. And one of the things I said was you have had a lot of adversity that you have overcome and turned into advantages. And I think that's genuinely one of the reasons why you're such an impressive human being.
Thank you.
Of course.